In a world where war never ends, one man carries the weight of a generation, survivor of the battlefield, bringing you hard truths and hot lead, reviews from the locker, and trips to the meat grinder. Now he's taking you behind enemy lines, not into combat, into truth, stories from 1st Recon Battalion, with no BS conversations. Marine, veteran, Brad Iceman Colbert, where legends tell it like it is. This is not just a podcast, it's a mission.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Carry On Podcast. I am your host, Brad Colbert, the Iceman, and we are going to conduct another AMA. The questions have been pouring in, and I absolutely appreciate them. It is my intent to answer all of them in their entirety, although I do caution you, some of them are spicy. So if I do not answer them to your liking, I have no recourse but to say, tough, I did the best that I could. So we have Anna, who is going to read our questions out as per usual, and there's quite a lot of debate whether she is artificial or real, and I 100% can tell you she is real. She's also very ornery. So for those of you that are accusing her of being fake, go easy. We have your address. So without further ado, let's dive into the questions, and I will answer them in no particular order. So Anna, what do we have first?
Let's start with the Generation Kill related one, shall we? Did your, I better say who it's from. This is from Reddit user 2EasyOL56. They want to know, did your jalapeno and cheese woes ever change? In the circa 2016 days, I had a pretty decent variety between peanut butter, plain cheese, and jalapeno and cheese. That was the best one for sure, though.
Yeah, I think that jalapeno cheese for me is still my favorite condiment in the Mr. E's Outdoor Cafe or MREs. They are still, they're out there, but it's been a long time since I've eaten MREs, so I don't know if they're currently fielded. They either went away for a while or they changed the formula, but when they were issued, they were absolutely my favorite. And the old style MRE cracker, because they changed the cracker, it changed, and then they went to a healthier whole wheat. It's disgusting. Peanut butter is good all by itself. The jelly, don't ever open it. Just leave it sealed, throw it away, because you'll never cleanly get the jelly opened without making a sticky mess of everything. And then it just attracts ants and then maybe bears. I hope that answers the question.
Thoroughly, I think. What flavored jelly anyway?
I believe it was a grape jelly.
Oh, it's the worst one.
Yeah,
in my humble
no
opinion.
business being. You know, because the cracker they gave it to you has holes in it, so you'd put the jelly on it and it would leak through. Right. Anyways, moving.
It's like they wanted you to suffer a bit more. Yeah. Right, let's move. Matt. Matt is my friend and yours, and he's a Patreon supporter.
Oh, great.
He's in Australia. You like Matt?
Oh, yes. My Aussie Matt. Okay.
Yeah, you know you're Aussie Matt. He would like to know 2 questions, in fact. Let's do one at a time. What is your favorite Borderlands game?
Okay. Out of all of the Borderlands games, it would be Borderlands 4, which I am still knee-deep in. Finished the DLCs, and now just playing the iterative updates that drop with some, new level bosses and new weapons. I like Borderlands because there's 6 million different weapons combinations that you can get in the game, I think. Or is it billion? It's a lot. It's an almost infinite number of weapons combinations, and that's fun. I like playing it because it's first person, but it's also multi. You could play with a group. And I like the fact that Borderlands 4 has up to 4 different characters that can play simultaneously. Yeah, not especially a fan of the Tales of the Borderlands, which is like these offshoot prequel side games. Those can, yeah, anyways. So, yeah, Borderlands 4 is my favorite.
Okie doke. Moving on, Matt's second question. Complete pivot here. Do you think humans will make it to Mars in our lifetime?
Whose lifetime? Because I'm old and I'm basically halfway dead.
Let's assume Matt's younger than you. Let's assume Matt's a lovely, delicious 30-year-old.
Okay, that was weird. I don't know, Matt, if he is young or delicious, and I'm not going to weigh in on that. But I will weigh in on his question. I feel confident that my children will see Mars in their lifetime. Not necessarily an immigration see it, but we will have a colony, hopefully on the moon, that'll help bootstrap us to Mars. Could we go directly to Mars from Earth? We can, but it's very expensive. I think the cheaper and easier way for a whole host of reasons is to build a lot of the stuff in low Earth orbit and then, or in the orbit around the moon and then go to Mars, but I digress. Yeah, I do. I think maybe on my last gasp of breath, Elon's Tesla will be driving around Mars. And then a disembodied head of Elon kept alive in a fluid will be there too.
And if you're wrong, I shall look forward to calling you on your deathbed and telling you so.
Please do.
Be my pleasure.
Yeah.
Next one. This is from somebody with the username Twixus. Don't know what it means.
Okay.
And they would like to know an equally incomprehensible question. Is Fruity Rudy as fruity and as Rudy as they say?
There's so many ways that I want to answer this question. I want to, God. Yes, he is almost a caricature of himself in many ways. I don't think that Rudy has complete self-awareness to realize how he comes across to everyone else. And that's sort of the magic of Rudy, is that he plays it straight. It's not shtick. It's not a gag. That's actually how he is. And so if it was an act, you would completely be right in saying he was totally fruity, but he's not. It's that's just how he is. He'll always be Fruity Rudy to me because I think I've treaded enough ground with the man in the different campaigns and deployments that we've been on to be able to call him that nickname. But yeah, I think so. He is just like on another level. We'll have him in the studio, so you're going to get a chance at some point here very soon. We are going to do a one-on-one with Rudy Reyes, and we're going to talk a lot about the Generation Kill time period and then what he's been doing recently and his future projects and answer all of those questions. So, yeah, you can make your own decision.
Lovely, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's go Marine Corps.
Okay.
What was your favorite specialty or advanced school that you attended, foreign or domestic? And which do you believe increased your effectiveness the most? And that's from First of the Magi. Or the Magi, I guess, if you're you.
What course did I attend? I think, and there's been a lot. Which one did I like the most?
Which do you believe increased your effectiveness the most?
Got it.
And which was your favorite?
Okay. So my absolute favorite was either the Summer or Winter Mountain Leaders course, which is a 7-week course in Bridgeport, which is in the Sierra Nevadas in California. And it is the premier school for the Marine Corps to train its NCO Corps in mountain warfare. And all aspects of it, from logistics to maneuvering to you are a subject matter expert when you graduate the course, able to lead a infantry battalion in a mountainous environment, either summer or winter. And it's absolutely incredible training, something that I think the private sector would spend tens of thousands of dollars to receive, and you get it in part of your uniformed service. So, fantastic course. But I did not fight with a lot of the skills that course taught me, although they did come into play in many occasions. I never led an infantry battalion in a mountainous environment. So yeah, that was the most fun, the most applicable. Probably some of the advanced, I was going to say some of the advanced parachuting courses, but to be honest, I never parachuted in combat, so I can't really say that was applicable as well. The breaching schools were fun, but I never actually did many live breaches. I did some, but not that many. I think the Marine Corps' leadership courses are okay. They're not great, so I'm not going to give credence to those. That's a tough question, honestly. I probably would say I don't know. Dive school, possibly. because I did a assload of diving in the Marine Corps, like a lot. And so possibly that, as far as applicability goes, I wouldn't say that it was an improvement, but yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one. It's a hard one to answer.
Obviously.
Leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else you got?
Let's go Generation Kill. This is from Gabriel BR4QE.
Okay.
They would like to know, hey, Brad, hypothetically, how do you think your unit from 2003 would have adjusted to drone warfare?
I think we were young and resilient and adaptable enough that we probably would have adapted and adjusted fairly well if we lived long enough. And I think I will say that's one saving grace of the current climate in Ukraine, is that all of the hard lessons have already been learned, and the only people that are left alive are those that took those lessons and immediately applied them. So it's almost like the bell curve of conflict in Ukraine was slow enough or low enough to be able to adapt to the escalation of force ladder and technology in a way that allowed the Ukrainians to preserve their force. If that same template was applied to the 2003 platoon, then I think, yes, we probably would have been just fine. If you were to drop 2003 into 2026 without all of that that learning curve, we would have been schwacked in a heartbeat. And I think the next ground war is probably going to show that. I would expect, and you've seen this in some of the things we've spoken about in Sudan and Ukraine and a couple of the other conflicts, such as Iran. Drone warfare is rewriting the rules of maneuver warfare. So it's going to be brutal.
Okay.
What else you got?
Spider-Man 2291 says, I am 100% interested in more details on you working with the Royal Marine Commandos. Okay. It would also be fun to listen to you ribbing on our brothers from across the sea. And that's seconded by Tom293, who says, did you do any instructing there? Yep. And they say, was a fair-haired U.S. Marine teaching at Poole in 04? I don't know if they're saying they were one or was there one? There's no question mark.
Yeah, so I did an exchange program. For those of you that don't know, the Marine Corps has exchange programs with other services, other countries' services. There's several of these exchange billets. It's a quid pro quo. So one of theirs goes over to a unit in America, and we send one of ours over to, the same country. In this case, it was England. I worked at 10 Training Squadron, which is a amphibious training squadron in Poole, England, which is right on the coast of England. And I taught a lot of different disciplines, predominantly boating. That was what the billet was designed to do. That's what the billet description was. So small craft, medium craft, VBSS, intercoastal piloting, littoral, asymmetrical warfare. A lot of those skills. And as I've commented on in previous AMA, I have the deepest of respect for the Royal Marine Commandos. I think they are, without a doubt, the most, I want to say emotionally capable, but it's more than that. They are the most motivated, capable force that I think have seen. But they're small. I mean, there's 35 and, maybe 4,000 on a good day Royal Marine Commandos, and there's just 180,000 U.S. Marines. We have a bigger budget, comparatively speaking. We talked about that before, and I certainly don't want to open the floodgates of criticism for my comments being misinterpreted again. But yeah, I have nothing but respect. It was a great time. I could probably tell stories until, the AMA has expired and we run out of electricity. But they are a fantastic bunch of lads. I'm glad that I had time with them. I would definitely go to combat with any of them to this day.
Glad to hear it. Let's go. Oh, this is totally different. This is from Berry Reading 4809, and they're referring to the video intro here. Okay. What's the story behind you being strapped inside a gyrostim setup? Baseline testing, coordination, performance improvement, trying to recalibrate vestibular function? Whew, I'm doing well with this. I know they aren't super common, but I can attest that they are helpful with vestibular/balance rehabilitation.
Yes. Yeah, gyrostim was invented by a gentleman who happens to live and work in Colorado Springs. And at the time, that's where I was working. And it was through a mutual friend that we A couple of us that were working in Colorado at the time were invited to do a 6 or 10, I can't remember how many sessions it was, of gyrostim. And we were evaluating gyrostim for its ability to improve response time. And now it just so happens through the course of undergoing those sessions that a lot of us discovered that it has a lot of secondary benefits for treating trauma, PTSD, and TBI. In fact, it's incredible for treating TBI. A lot of the brain scans before and after gyrostim will show hyperperfusion throughout the area that was damaged tissue, and it will show up differently on scans, seeing tissue regrow and repair itself. And it's one of the few things that I am aware of that will do something like that. A lot of the guys that did the sessions with me responded well, they slept better. They had less nightmares. There was a whole host of secondary benefits, but that was not what we were conducting those sessions for. It was just to improve our reaction time with weapons handling. And it does. Initially, gyrostim was designed to improve athletes' response, boxers, football players, people that were performing at the peak of their athletic ability. It's fascinating. The world moves slower after 30 minutes of gyrostim. I mean, you are moving fast and the world just seems to be moving through sludge. And that's how much faster your reaction time is. Now, it will taper off and those effects are not permanent, but the repair of damaged tissue caused from a TBI or trauma from PTSD, that is lasting. So it has a lot of treatment modalities for veterans. And it's one of the things that I will be exploring later in a future show. We would like to go out to Colorado and talk more one-on-one and hopefully bring that to you as a separate carry-on episode. So I hope that answers your question.
It's fascinating. Look forward to that.
Yeah.
Let's go somewhere else. This is from Michael in Seattle. He wants to know, from the time you got out of the Marines to now, has there been much change in how you view the country and the world, considering the current political climate? Are there many former Marines you stay... Marines. Are there many Marines you stay in contact with who feel the same?
Well, I mean, I'll say one thing about the Marines, and this is not intrinsic to the Marine Corps. It's probably everyone, armed services specifically. But I'll tell you, one of the greatest pastimes of a Marine is to complain and bitch. It doesn't matter. You could be living on steak and lobster and caviar in a 5-star resort. A Marine will find something to complain about. So when you get two Marines in the same room, I can promise you there's going to be a common topic that they're going to find fault with. Since I've left the Marine Corps, I see the world a little differently because I am once, twice, 3 times removed from all of that military bureaucracy. And I think I look at the lens of current affairs, with a little more wisdom, with a little more maturity than I probably did when I was still wearing the uniform. I also don't have the same burden of editing my comments or my expectations. So I may have been a little more politically sensitive in uniform, and I'm probably not as politically sensitive now. So I think I understand the depth of your question. Every administration does things that some form or some demographic in the United States is probably not going to like. I don't agree with a lot of what the current administration does, but I am still a fan of the team. As I've said before, just not a huge fan of the team captain right now. But I think that a lot of the principles and fundamentals of the party are still aligned with my philosophy, and so that's probably not going to change. Marines are free to say and do as they wish when they're not in uniform, especially if they're not commissioned as officers. So I don't know exactly what a lot of my brethren feel about current events, domestically or abroad. I have spoken to some, but I don't want to speak for them. So I will tell you, there's a lot of opinions out there. We'll hopefully share some with you.
Okay. This is from username, yeah, man, yup.
Okay, good username.
Yep. Yup. Hey, Brad, what was the disease you all were catching towards the end of Generation Kill? How bad was it affecting the guys? Ugh.
I have to confess, I'm struggling to remember what disease he is referring to.
It was the shits, wasn't it? Weren't they all getting some sort of dysentery, like
It's quite possible.
gastrointestinal?
I mean, it's not like you're maintaining a high standard of hygiene. You're washing your hands, but you're also eating a lot of food that's not prepared the freshest. It was either MREs or it was T-rats. I think there was a couple of opportunities for other food, but not a lot. I don't recall. I don't think I had any intestinal issues during that 2003 block. At least I don't remember.
Stomach of iron, cast iron stomach. Someone did though, didn't they?
Then they might have, and I can't. I'm going to have to circle back to that one because I honestly don't remember, and shame on me. But we can have this conversation with Aspera and see what he remembers.
See if he had some nasty intestinal diseases. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Brazil. This is from Isabella. She would like to know, could you tell us about the impact of PTSD on military personnel after their tours of duty, and share a little about your personal experience with war trauma and how it has affected your life in general and specific ways, both professionally and personally?
Well, I got lucky, and I really didn't come home with a lot of PTSD. I don't feel that I came home with any PTSD. I think that there is a transitional period from combat to peacetime. There is a lot of things that happen in a high stress, high op tempo environment. Your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, that fight or flight response, there's a lot of chemical release. And the byproduct of that is you dispense with a lot of the pleasantries. And I think I've talked about this before. One of the things that a lot of people appreciate about combat is that it strips away this social lubricant that we have in peacetime, the please and thank you. It's really crisis leadership in perpetuity. Now, it's a good thing in the sense that it allows for candor over charisma. And in combat, that is exactly what you need. It is a bad thing because the body cannot sustain being in that fight or flight mode for long periods of time. It does really bad things to your lymphatic system, to your body. It's crass. Like, you cannot ride an adrenaline high for long periods of time before the body it doesn't like it. So people do get burnt out, and a lot of that physical baseline that is changed in combat will carry with you towards peacetime. And it takes a while to re-baseline yourself, to not get as frustrated with crowds or lines or traffic or not getting the answer you want. You have to sort of realign yourself to use a lot of the social pleasantries that you stripped away when rounds were getting thrown at you. So I never came back with PTSD. I don't know why a lot of people don't come back with PTSD. There's been a lot of research into this topic. A lot of smart people have made their doctorate thesis on this topic, and no one really knows why one person will get it and another person won't. We've gone to great lengths to baseline people before combat and after combat to see what's changed in their reaction times and their cognitive abilities and their brain scans. But why one person gets it and another doesn't, we don't know that yet. There's been a huge increase in treatment protocols and modality and understanding PTSD. It's not new. It goes, way back to World War I, probably earlier than that. It's been called by different names, but PTSD is the word that we use in 2026. Anna, did I answer that? Can you do me a favor and just read her opening question just one more time? It's an important question. I want to pay it the attention it deserves.
She wants to know, could you tell us about the impact of PTSD on military personnel after their tours of duty? I think you did. Okay. Share a little about your personal experience with war trauma and how it has affected your life in general and specific ways. I think you did that as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
You
all right.
Weaseled out.
Well, yeah. And I do want to say we are keeping that specific question in our top of mind for the show. We do want to explore further treatment protocols for PTSD, whether it's unconventional or mainstream. And there are a lot of unconventional treatments out there like Ibogaine and some other things that are on the cutting edge. And we are going to be exploring those with the individuals who are experts in their field and try to shed some light on it. So yeah, good question. And thank you.
Stay tuned.
Huh?
This is anonymous, although it doesn't need to be. It's a nice question.
Okay.
You mentioned underwater spearfishing in a reply to a comment on YouTube. Could you please share more details? When, where, and how was it?
Okay. I did a lot of spearfishing in Okinawa when I was stationed there in the Marine Corps. I've also done it in Guam. I've done it in Australia. It's a lot of fun. There are certain regulations based off where you're doing it, what you can and cannot do. There's sometimes limits on the type of fish that you can hunt. Yeah, I guess. Spear. I'm sure. I don't know what the right word is. But it's essentially you're either on a breath hold and you dive down with a net and you spear the fish, put it in the bag and swim up to the surface, or you are on some kind of closed or open circuit system that allows you to stay underwater. And again, different countries and different areas will have rules on what you can and cannot do for each one of those. But yeah, it's a arrow with a giant rubber band attached to the back that you stretch and point it at a fish, let it go.
So hang on, it's not human powered. You've got some sort of.
Well, there's two different kinds.
A spear through their heads.
There's a toy. It's not a toy. There's a device called a Hawaiian sling, which is basically like that. It's a spear with a rubber band at the end that you pull back and let go, and it moves under its own power. Or you can have a rigid aluminum gun that fires the spear out.
No, I thought you'd be swimming fast, and then your force would push the spear through the fish. This is much more manly than I was.
The Little Mermaid cartoon with real life.
I thought you were a bit more manly than that. You've got to have some rubber band powered magic device.
The Little Mermaid. Does that count for anything?
I suppose. All right. Let's go. This is Fox2 Media 880, and they would like to know, what was your favorite close air support platform from a ground perspective when you were in? And is there a vintage, do I say CAS or CAS?
You could say CAS.
Is there a vintage CAS platform you wish you'd had access to, like a Phantom, A6, etc., during missions?
Yeah. My favorite, I have to be fair here and probably say that it's the Cobra. There's something really unique about the U.S. Marine Corps. Our aviators are organic. So when I pick up the radio and I talk to Marine aviation, I am talking to another Marine who has gone through a lot of the same training that I have. We speak the same language, but moreover, we wear the same uniform. I will probably see that pilot on the ground, either in the chow hall or somewhere moving about. And that's very special and unique to the Marine Corps because the Army doesn't do business that way. The Air Force doesn't really do business the same way. The Marine Corps has Marine Corps pilots supporting Marine Corps infantry. The Air Force, the Navy, the Army, they do not. You could argue with me about it, but I'll argue right back. So the Cobra is a fantastic platform. It's gone through a lot of iterations since the Vietnam Southeast Asia campaign, and the current iteration of the Cobra is absolutely amazing. You can say, well, the Apache is better. Okay, got it, but the Apache is not designed for close air support. The Apache is a tank killer, and that is what it's designed to do. Yes, it can do a close air support role, but that's not doctrinally what it's out there doing. Whereas the Cobra was built from the ground up to support Marine infantry on the ground, and I think it does an amazing job. So in answer to the second question, as far as a vintage platform goes, the OV-10 Bronco, probably. If I'm getting the nomenclature right, I believe it's the OV-10, and the Bronco is great. Another Vietnam era fixed wing aircraft, very slow, very low. They did a lot of spotting for artillery and other platforms to do close air support, but great plane. Yeah.
Nice. The next part of that question is, what are your general thoughts on Marine Air versus other services you've worked with? You've kind of covered that.
Yeah, I've kind of covered it. Aviation is a fantastic field. I'm a huge fan of flying aircraft. I geek out on that stuff. But you kind of have to put it in the context of combat aviation, not transport. Not that I'm denigrating transport. I'm just, let's stick to the gunfighters. I still think that, the Apache is a fantastic platform. The AC-130 is probably the baddest thing in the sky when it comes to sheer firepower. Those things, again, another Vietnam-born aircraft, they will rain hate and discontent with a level of precision that I don't think any other platform on the planet can duplicate. But there's not that many of them, and they are tasked to, tier 1 units. So for your everyday infantry, I think the Marines are going to win on this one too.
Okay. No arguments here. FamNova 8150 wants to know, did the Marines give you the option to transfer into the newly formed MARSOC, or did you choose to remain in Force Recon or something else?
Oh, fuck. I don't really want to answer this one.
You've got to.
I was not given a choice. And in hindsight, the way that it manifested itself, even if I was given a choice, I probably still would have turned it down. I came up in the ranks in the 0321, which is the Reconnaissance Marine family. That is my bread and butter. Those are my roots. So I'm very loyal to them. The job that MARSOC is currently doing is a good one. The individuals that populate that MOS, the critical skills operators, are fine, well-trained and skilled Marines. And I think they are paying service to the larger Marine Corps. But even in 2006, as I was there when they furled the colors up and transitioned to MARSOC, one, I was not given an option, but I don't think I would have taken it even if I did. Yeah. There's more to the story, but you know what? We're leaving it there. That's a teaser.
Apologies, I cut you off there.
That's okay.
Omar Rodriguez would like to know, when Generation Kill came out, how famous or infamous did you become in the Marine Corps?
I became more recognized than I realized at the time, and it didn't change throughout the time that I wore the uniform, and it hasn't actually changed now, as a lot of people say that story was the impetus for them enlisting, which I'm very flattered and humbled that I could help the recruiting effort for the Marine Corps in some small way. Initially, and I think we've talked about this in a previous AMA or at least discussions with Ray Person, but we have talked about a lot of the repercussions that took place because of the notoriety. Yeah. And you can refer back to the Ray Person episode for a little more illumination on that. Yeah, I did. I was fairly well-known. Not rock star. I didn't have an entourage. Nobody was taking paparazzi pictures, but yes, the name had some recognition for what it's worth.
And we can link that episode below if anyone wants to catch up. It's a good one. Let's go. Oh, off topic here. America Deuce says, in your time in England, did you support any English football clubs?
So I went to one football match, or soccer as the Americans would say, but I went to one football match. It was Manchester versus Liverpool. I'd never seen anything like it. I don't have a aversion to sports. I'm just not entertained by them. So I will sit at a baseball game or a football game, or in your question's case, a football match. But I didn't, I never wore the colors. I never particularly followed any team. I went more because it was, as a foreigner, it's what you do, And I was amazed at the fact that there were chain link fences in the arena that physically separated the home team from the visitors team, and that they had to be bussed in under police escort and then escorted out, lest the hooligans attack the visiting team. And I want to say I attended in Manchester and Liverpool was visiting. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure it was Manchester that I saw the match in.
Who won?
I think it was a tie at 0.
Oh.
Which is another reason why I find sports ball to be so incredibly boring, because they normally end in zeros. Moving on.
Oh, we've answered the next one is Anna AI. No, painfully, imperfectly human. Sorry, guys. Let's go. Oh, gosh, let's go serious here. This is Milkman McGee, 3657. They'd like to know, could you describe the day you first heard about the Haditha massacre back in 2005? Did you at any point ever get into conversations with Marines from 3rd Battalion 1st Marines who were deployed to that area when it happened?
All right, pause there so that I can...
Sure.
I was in England when I had heard about Haditha. Disappointing, and I didn't have a chance to really speak to anyone first person. So all of my information was second or third order, which I don't put a lot of credence in, except for a baseline context standpoint. So I really didn't have opportunity to get any of the salient details. Obviously, it's not something that reflected well then or now, so it's not something that I would want to, I don't want to say celebrate, but it's something that is hopefully used as lessons learned and not something that would be repeated. Hopefully that answers the question.
It does. The next part was how authentic the two books this person has read about it are, and I'm sure you're not going to weigh in on that since you weren't there. And
yeah, like I wasn't there, and so a subject like this is always contentious, and there's a lot of analogies for your two book choices. What are they, by the way?
They don't specify.
Okay. I can't endorse any one version of that story over another because I really haven't done the homework that I should in order to, as a critical thinker, weigh in on that. All I can tell you is read both and see which one resonates more with you. And then call back in or write back into the show. Let me know.
And we'll talk again. Lovely. Next one. This is from Eclectic Carbon. I think most vets have several of these. What is a silly mistake that you made in training that still makes you physically cringe to think about?
True. Well, gosh, there's so many. I mean, where do I start? There's a lot of just really silly things that you do when you're young, regardless of whether you're in the military or not. And I think it's exacerbated when you're in the military because you're in this hierarchy. So as you progress in rank and you're given more depth and breadth of responsibilities, you have more opportunities to make silly mistakes. And there's very little mentorship in many cases to keep those from happening. Okay, like a lot of little silly ones. There was never a major one, but there's some things that to this day I am embarrassed that I did. And this is one that a lot of younger Marines will make mistakes, or at least back then. I was doing some training at Coronado as a young Recon Marine. I was actually going through the basic reconnaissance course. And if you didn't know, chiefs in the Navy, those are E7s, E8s, and E9s, will wear a golden anchor on their collar. And as a young Lance Corporal, it looks very similar to an officer's bars. So you run around saluting chiefs a lot. And they don't like it. And then they tell you they don't like it in a way that only they can. And it's embarrassing. And you don't forget it, except you'll do it about 4 days later to another one because all you see is gold and you don't want to get yelled at. And there's a lot of silly things like that I had done. But nothing egregious, nothing major, nothing where I look back and think, my trajectory would have been so different had I simply chosen door number 2 instead of door number 1. Nothing to that degree. Yeah, that's about the best answer that I can give.
Good enough.
Something will come to me at like 2 a.m. I'll sit straight up and I'll have to text Anna. We're doing it again.
We'll give you a few drinks and you'll bring up some really embarrassing ones. Oh, yeah. And then we'll record it again.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. J.M. Wallstrom would like to know, Was Encino Man really that incompetent? I believe you said the show was 60 to 80% realistic, but I was just wondering.
That's a tough one because hindsight's 20/20, and it's easy for me to make an assessment of somebody's character in the moment, and then it changes. I mean, 2003, it's been a couple of decades. So I don't think that the man was incompetent. I don't think that he was exactly as aggressive as he could have been in some situations. But, he's also he was in a bad position himself. It's hard being at that rank, at that time, in that place where most of the decision and the policymakers and the strategists are wearing stars and you're wearing captain's bars. So it's hard. I think his heart was in the right place. Could he have done some things differently? Yeah. But I mean, that could be said for a lot of us. So I don't want to assassinate his character. Incompetence, a strong word. I will say, I think some mistakes were made. But yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Okie doke. This is from Lavender Town. What a nice name. 2 parts.
Okay. Separately.
What was it like being a master sergeant vice a corporal / sergeant?
What was it like? Wow. It was great in many ways to be a master sergeant, and then it was also horrible. When you're a corporal, you have just enough authority to make some decisions, but you're young enough to be able to make some really boneheaded mistakes and be forgiven. There's also a much, much, much less expectations when you're an E4 versus an E8. But, you get promoted, and the expectation is that you should have learned everything you needed to know to be successful for that next rank. Otherwise, why are we promoting you? So it sort of goes hand in glove. You are expected to make more mistakes as an E4 versus an E8. The mistakes that you make as an E8 could also be much more impactful, much more broad-reaching. So, I mean, I had fun at both ranks. There was none of the responsibility as a corporal that I had as a master sergeant. I could get away with a lot. And I mean, I was a team leader as a corporal for a little while there, and that's a pretty special thing to be in that time. I hope I answered that one okay, Anna.
Beautifully. Second part, did you work, I'm going to get these wrong, did you work with any JTACs / TACP / CCT? What do they stand for, please?
Yeah. Joint Tactical Air Controllers, Tactical Air Controllers. It's all individuals who are trained to speak to the aircraft that are going to come in and drop bombs or do gun runs. I am a JTAC myself, so we definitely spoke to each other. I speak to myself all the time, so I guess the answer is yes. I had an opportunity to work alongside with tactical air controllers from the Air Force CCT teams and a few other of the services, Premier Force, and as well as some foreign. So yes, the answer is yes, I have.
Very nice. Let's go to Reddit. This is from Yalcha145.
Okay.
He is a journeyman electrician in his late 20s who has to supervise a lot of people older than he is. His question is, do you have any leadership advice when it comes to dealing with those who have more time and experience than you and those who have a hard time seeing you as a superior because of a closeness in age?
That's a good question. I think that, so leadership can take a lot of different facets. Sometimes you're in a managing position, sometimes you're in a leadership position, and one is not more important or less important than the other. Understand when you're in a leadership position and you have the ability to effect change, and then would recognize when you don't, and you're really just taking role and making sure people are where they're supposed to be in the appointed time, and let them know what their expectations are. Adults come with a lot of experience. It's the difference between adult learning and teaching a child. Adults show up with life experience, with work experience, with attitudes and beliefs, and you have to understand those. You have to become empathetic to those, because without that level of empathy, you're not going to be able to properly transform your organization. You're not going to be able to properly lead them, in my opinion. So my advice to you is recognize that those that may be chronologically older than you have experience, and then tap into that. If you have the opportunity for democratic leadership, I would say take advantage of it. Involve them in the decision-making process, as long as they understand that once you make the decision, it is your decision. And don't let them try to intimidate you or browbeat you into making a decision that you really don't think is the right one to make. As far as the junior ones go, that's your opportunity for mentorship and for coaching, teaching, and training. Take the wisdom that you currently have as your journeyman's position and help those that may not be as fortunate to have, and bring them up to your level. Try to, transform instead of transaction your organization. It's going to be much more rewarding. And let me know how it goes. That's a difficult question. Without, living what you're living, it's hard to answer a one size fits all, but hopefully that helps a little bit.
Nicely said, I think. Let's go to Israel. This is from Peleg, who is a 23-year-old Israeli reserve recon soldier who has completed over 600 days on the front lines.
Congratulations, that's tough.
Also a political science student.
That's even tougher.
Absolutely. 3-part question. We'll do one at a time.
Okay.
They're long. Brace yourself.
Send it.
On the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, as a reservist with 600 days in the front lines, I see our actions as a necessary defense of our people against an adversary that consistently rejects peace. Okay. From your perspective as a veteran of complex urban conflicts, how do you view the current situation here, and what is your take on the challenges of asymmetric warfare in this region?
Well, if you're asking me to weigh in on my moral and ethical take on your conflict, that one's going to be a little tricky, because I think that there is definitely justification for what your country is conducting. I will say that I am a little sensitive to some of the ways it is being conducted. I am not on the ground. I'm not engaged in your conflict, wearing your uniform or pulling the trigger. So I know what it's like to be on the front lines and to be second-guessed in the decisions that I make, and I don't want to be that person. But I will say, from an outside optic, it appears that the Israeli army's campaign in Gaza is a little heavy-handed, that there may not be as much jurisprudence in when and where attacks are taking place and by what mechanisms. That is my opinion, obviously, and you asked for it, so I'm giving it to you. As far as asymmetrical warfare goes, the worst possible place that you could be conducting it is in an urban environment. And I definitely sympathize with what 600 days must feel like in that environment. That's horrible. You have no respite. There's no rear area. Everything is the front line. And that's just the very nature of asymmetric warfare. So for you to do that for such a long period of time, I mean, I'm glad you're okay. Take a rest, probably for the rest of the year. I think urban warfare is going to continue to get more complex as our sensor capabilities become more advanced, as drone warfare starts permeating into that environment more and more. And you're also fighting, and you know this, but for those that don't, you're fighting an adversary that does not wear a uniform, that has no hierarchy, that does not respect the Geneva Convention, that has no compunctions about hiding behind civilians, children, and women. So you're in a shit sandwich. I don't know what else to tell you. I have no sage words of wisdom for you on that front. You probably know more about it than I do at this point. Be careful. Stay safe. What was the other parts, Miss Anna?
Next part, on leadership. After years of reflection, what is the most important trait a small unit leader must have to maintain the trust of his men when the mission's objectives seem unclear or contradictory?
Unclear or contradictory. I would just say integrity. So there's personality ethics and there's character ethics. Personality ethics may get you through the day. It may get you through the month, but eventually your troops will see through that. Personality ethics are you're gregarious, you have a winning smile, you have a bubbly personality, you're physically fit. Those are all personality ethics. Character ethics are things like honesty, integrity, justice. Those are virtues. Virtues will win the day every time. So one of the things I think in a crisis, a leader needs to be is you have to over communicate. You have to have integrity with your communications, and a little bit of humility never hurts either. One of the things I think, and this is somewhat off topic, that leaders fail to understand is that no one expects you to be perfect 100% of the time. We are not that way as people. And as a leader, if you project that, it is a falsehood, and they'll see through it. Everyone does. As a parent, we make mistakes. As a leader, we make mistakes. As human beings, we make mistakes. That vulnerability that you show every now and then by admitting to somebody, I don't know what the answer is. What do you think the answer is? Or, yeah, I screwed that one up really, really bad. I will do my best not to do that in the future. That level of vulnerability, you will find actually personalizes you, and that it will endear you to your subordinates, and they will be more likely to follow you because they see you as genuine and as real and as a human being. And it is something that you have to work at, and you can lose like that. So I go back again, integrity, I think. Just walk the walk and talk the talk. Don't feed them bullshit. Don't tell them what you think they want to hear. If it's bad news, deliver it. And temper expectations of good news. That's about all I'm going to say on that one, Anna.
Okay. Final part on transition out of the military.
Okay.
How did you manage the mental switch between the high-stakes environment of the military and the civilian world?
Well, I think it was somewhat easier for me because the last 3 years of my military service was in an acquisitions command at Headquarters Marine Corps. I worked a lot with civilians. I worked a lot with industry. I worked a lot with former military. And so it was a lot easier for me to transition into plain clothes than it was somebody who perhaps was doing back-to-back deployments, and then that's it. The other thing that helped me out a lot is I found myself the next day in a job that was quasi-military, populated with all prior military from a diverse group. So that helped out a lot. You know, it's one of the things that I've talked about with some of the other folks on the Carry On podcast team, and we've talked about it with guests such as Alex Lemons, which is a great episode. If you haven't watched it, I suggest checking it out, is there is no transition after the military the same way that there is the inboarding process. All active duty persons go through a week to 2 week long out processing workshop. But really what it's designed to do is to prepare you for the workforce, resume skills, what the VA can offer, job opportunities, job fairs, college, using your GI benefits. And it doesn't really de-doctrinate you. And I know that's not a word, but I'm making it one. And there probably should be. A lot of people feel like there should be a boot camp on the way in and a boot camp on the way out. All of that to say, my experience was great because of the unique nature in which I left. Not everyone's is. So there are plenty of organizations out there that will help a lot more than the Marine Corps' one-size-fits-all, here's your week-long out-processing workshop. Thank you for your service. All right, that will take us to the end of part one of the AMA. We are going to break this up into a couple of bite-sized pieces to make it easier for you and, frankly, to make it easier for me. So tune in next time. As always, I am Brad Colbert, the Iceman, reminding all of you to stay frosty.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome.